Hey, it's Clark. In this video, we're talking about 3 things that you must do in order to let go. I'll link our video on the letting go technique itself down below, but I'll explain it just in 30 seconds and then we'll get into these 3 major things that I think are going to be really powerful for you. And I'm going to draw up a little chart. Arts and Crafts with Clark. Yes, found it. So I'm going to drop something different, but I'm too lazy to draw this one up. This is what is called the Hawkins chart, or the map of consciousness. And so you'll see down here, there's these lower emotions: grief, apathy, fear, anger, pride, and then it gets all the way up to love, peace, and enlightenment. So when we're talking about letting go, we're literally coming in here and letting go of some of this lower stuff. In doing that, you can actually raise your vibration or raise your set point or raise your mood, feel better about yourself. They don't bother you as much. So you're literally drawing a line here and letting go of this stuff. And so if you think about yourself in a negative event or a negative state, let's just say you got broken up with, stresses of life are getting in the way, unpleasant thoughts are coming up about your past and you're beating yourself up, it's easy to get your mind trapped in that loop. That's the kind of things that we want to let go of. The breakup, losing a job, the reoccurring thoughts that you can't shake. Oftentimes that event turns into our interpretation of it. From that, we make meaning, which leads us to a story that often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of getting more or less of those events. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. I come up to you randomly, I see you, and I say, wow, you look really good today. That's the event. It's all in your interpretation. You look really good today. You might interpret that as, well, that was random, which might cause you to cause the meaning, wow, Clark's really into me. If a boss does that to you, you might be like, oh, that's creepy, which might have you develop a story. That person's really into me, they're creepy, so I'm gonna avoid them in the future. Make sense? You might also be like, what? What does that mean? Do I not normally look good? Wow, he's a jerk, he's rude. Now this can also go the other way, where the event happens, you look really good today. Maybe you have high self-esteem, so your story of yourself is like, yeah, oh, thanks, I do. So the meaning is, wow, that person's nice and confirms what I already believe about myself. Interpretation, they're a nice person. You project niceness back and you get more events like that. In other words, it's not necessarily what happens to you, it's the meaning that your mind makes and the stories that you tell yourself. With letting go, the most important thing, the first thing, is stopping this story, because your mind's just going to keep spinning out of control if it's going negative. So as soon as the event happens, you need to realize that if you don't catch it right here and put up a wall, this is what you could call boundaries, automatically it's going to have the momentum to interpret it to the meaning, to the story. And once it gets to a story, it is hard to change. It becomes a part of you. Most people with letting go, they're trying to let go of the stories. And that's a little tougher because they're so complex than if you're just letting go of an event. Okay, so the sooner you can catch something to let go of, identify it, and kind of grab onto it and use the techniques that we give you and other books have given you and everything like that, the more effective it is, because you're cutting it off closer to the root. Instead of all the interpretation and meaning and stories we give it, sometimes you can over-identify with your stories, and letting those go is almost like giving up on 2-3 years of admitting to yourself that that story didn't serve you and you've wasted a lot of time and energy and life just ruminating on that story, and that can be hard for people. So my point, catch it and the event stage, interpretation stage, meaning stage. If it is in the story, it's not too late, but know that that's a little tougher. My second point, it's important here to note that there's 2 kinds of emotions, and I'll set this up and tie it back to you. The first is primary emotions. Your initial reactions to this event, that's a primary emotion. It's normal to feel sad if you miss your ex. It's normal and okay to feel stress or, anxiety if work is crazy right now and they don't have enough people to pick up the slack. It's okay if you're boarding an airplane that's going 30 or 40,000 feet in the air, 200 miles an hour or something crazy like that, to feel a little nervous. That's all normal. And so a lot of people, especially in this law of attraction manifestation camp, they think that I'm terrible for having those primary emotions. Why do I feel anxious boarding a plane? Why can't I just la-di-da-da-da, like everything's okay, high-fiving people and just clouds part and rays of sunshine come down for me all day, every day? It's not how the mind works. And it's actually okay if you have some of those primary emotions. That's fine. And I actually think you're not responsible for them. I think a lot of those are automatic. A lot of those, if you study psychology, like the negative thoughts your mind is actually scanning for and clings on to. Maybe releasing some responsibility there from yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up, because that's going to create a negative loop here and reinforce the stories of why this stuff doesn't work and I'm terrible and I knew I was negative and stupid. All you're responsible for is what's called secondary emotions. Okay, so primary, initial emotions that come up from you: sadness, anger, stress, anxiety, okay, that stuff. Secondary emotions are your feelings or your judgments about the primary emotions themselves. Example, I miss my ex. I'm sad. That's okay. Now we catch it and we say, well, that means I'm never gonna find love again. I'm lonely, I'm a loser, look at me, who would wanna love me? That's bad, that's what we're talking about. I give the example just like, a kid on the playground gets really worked up when someone wronged him or someone cheated in a game or something like that, and they have this big story and they're telling you like, oh, he cheated and it's unfair because of X, Y, and Z. If you literally just let that kid run its course, in about 3 to 5 minutes, they'll get over it, and the two kids that are so mad at each other are playing again. That's kind of how your emotions are. Some people call like the emotional side, or like these inner child feelings, right? That's like when you get hurt, it's like literally like a child. So if you just let that thing run its course and play itself out, eventually you're gonna get to a point of where you're like, this isn't serving me anymore. But where the problem comes is where we suppress that and we start having all these secondary emotions about the feelings themselves, and our intellectual adult mind kicks on and says, yeah, but I shouldn't be this way because of X, Y, Z, and all these other people and all these videos I watched told me blah, 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 blah. So that's the secondary stuff, and that's really what you need to let go of too. Primary stuff is like, secondary stuff is really what you need to look out for. We'll close with one more thing, and I'll give you a couple questions here that are powerful. So I just want to recap where we are. The point of letting go is putting up boundaries before this completes the story. Maybe a way to think of this is, great, so you have a negative thought, don't let it complete the sentence. Great, so it completed the sentence, well, don't let it complete the paragraph. Don't let it complete the page. Don't let it complete the chapter. Don't let it do this. So even wherever you're at in this process, just don't let it get to the next one, because it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And the second major point is that we're talking the difference between primary emotions, which are natural, it's okay, you're human. Give yourself that gentle permission to feel, to not be a robot, to not shut it off in this just like unrealistic optimism trap that people can get into. But catch yourself when they start going into a story or a secondary emotion that we are responsible for, the meaning we're making because of it. I think the last thing too, let's just say someone gets out of a relationship, and I use this one a lot because a lot of the people I work with are transitioning through like navigating a tough breakup or something. Not that I'm a breakup coach by any means, but I think that wherever you go, there you are. So the best thing to focus on out of a breakup is yourself, because every future relationship you're in, you're gonna be in it. And every past one you're in, you were in it. I digress. Back to the breakup. So if you get out of one, it's normal to feel hurt or anger or anything like that. And it's actually healthy, because that's how your body's processing these emotions. What's unhealthy is the people who kind of just say, okay, out of this one, well, let me just shut off all those negative stuff and just jump straight to it, get into a new one right away. And you've probably known people like that, or maybe you've done that a few times and learned from it that maybe it wasn't the healthiest thing. By those people, what happens with those kind of like rebounders or whatever that just, or serial monogamists that just boom, 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 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, just for like 10 years or something. So not actually having that gap to process things through. And so what they're actually doing is suppressing or repressing those negative feelings about themselves or someone after it ends. Okay, and so that's eventually going to bubble up and come out, just like you shake a soda can, and that changes what's in there. When you open that thing, bubbles over and erupts. A lot of the bubbling over or eruptions happen in the new relationship, where they're still processing the old one, or they're projecting onto that person stuff that their ex did, or fights that they had, or all that stuff. They carry that baggage into the next one instead of healing from it, growing from it, and dropping it and starting fresh. So I guess 2 questions here for you is, if you're struggling to let go of stuff, if you're carrying around a lot of judgments for yourself or stories, just ask yourself these 2 simple questions. And you might want to take out something to write these down when you can, maybe tomorrow morning, maybe tonight, maybe on your lunch break or something, whenever you're watching this. The first one, what is this story, emotion, interpretation, meaning? What is it costing you now? What is it costing you now? And get brutally honest here. More energy, blocking you from a future relationship, blocking you from going after the business that you want, blocking you from enjoying the vacation. Even when you're on it, you're still in your head thinking about this event or person or negative thing, right? What is it really costing you? I think everything has a cost. The second question after that, once you identified the cost, because everything has a price, if you don't let go of this, what's it gonna cost you in the future? Some people who can't let go of things that happened a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. Well, if they just kind of keep playing that trajectory out, the future is going to be the exact same, isn't it? If nothing changes, nothing changes, right? Same level of thinking that got you here can't get you to somewhere else. I know what you're thinking. You're like, Clark, this sounds a little negative. What do you mean those two questions? What I call this is the cost of inaction. There is a price to staying stuck. Most people who don't make decisions, they don't realize that not making a decision is still a decision. It's a decision to not take action and stay where they are. If you want some help with this, we have a coaching program that it's not for everyone, but if you're serious about really what I call creating that 2.0 version of you, thinking differently, letting go of stuff, we guide you through a lot of these processes. And we give you all these tools to really become your own coach by the end of 6 weeks. It's our metamorphic program, and I'll link it down below. Feel free to check it out, apply, and if it's a good fit, we'll talk more and I can fill you in. Thanks so much for being here. Till next time, stop settling, start living. See ya.